Hello, hello. We are back. And today we're going to be continuing on with our lessons about food staples and what food is and what food isn't. We are in section 4. We've been going over already what plant staples are, things like corn and wheat and potatoes and rice. And now we're going over the meat staples, the kinds of protein that we eat in our diet. And this one is super exciting and really interesting. And this was a question that my kids had as they were growing up, what the difference was between seafood and fish. So, we're going to be talking all about fish and seafood today. So, if you remember, and we go back to our animal staples, the meat industry in the world is a $900 billion industry, verging on a $1 trillion industry. So, it's huge. Everyone all over the planet eats various kinds of meat. We have already gone over beef, we've already gone over chicken, and today we're going to go over fish and seafood. And it's really interesting. In the US, consumers eat about 19 pounds of seafood per year. That includes fish and shellfish and all different things that we'll get into in a minute. And compare that to 57 pounds of beef, which is a big difference. So we eat a lot less seafood here. And another interesting fact that I want you guys to know is that 90% of our seafood in the United States is imported from other countries. And so when we're in this section, we're talking about eating geographically and why geography matters. The whole world matters to every other part of the world because we all share food. We all import food. We import a lot of fish and seafood into the United States. The United States exports a lot of beef, and we all work together to feed the planet. And so I just want you to get a good feel for, in this lesson, what our fish is and what our seafood is. So, like I said, we eat about 19 pounds of seafood per person per year. And there's a world population of about 335, 340 million people in the world. And so when you do the math, that's a lot of fish and a lot of seafood. And if you head on over to my website at sizzlekids.com, there's a whole lesson on the fishing industry and large industrial fishing operations, like we've gone over in other lessons, and where fish comes from. So check that out over there. A lot more beautiful photographs of huge fishing boats with millions and millions of fish. And it's a huge industry, really interesting. I want you guys to know that this is one of your main protein sources on the planet. We've got beef, chicken, seafood, and fish, and pork, which we'll go over in our next lesson. But here we're talking about seafood. In the United States, the top 3 types of seafood that are eaten are shrimp is number 1 by far, and then salmon, and then canned tuna. So you might have had some salmon for dinner before, you might have had some canned tuna in a tuna fish sandwich, and shrimp, all different kinds of shrimp, shrimp on the barbecue, shrimp scampi, a garlic butter sauce shrimp, you might have had shrimp cocktail, all different kinds of fish and seafood. So, to begin with, I want you to understand what the difference is between fish and seafood. So, fish are fish, they have gills and fins and meat that is usually filleted or prepared in some kind of a way where it's cut off. Shellfish are usually eaten whole, as in, we have a picture here at the very top of oysters and mussels, we have shrimp, we have scallops. All of these things are considered seafood. Lobsters, for example, are considered seafood, but not fish. And fish are the swimming variety, and they are fish. So we have fish and seafood. Down here at the bottom of the main picture here, you see our lobster. And when lobsters are in the ocean, they are either a brown color or a blue color, even. And when you cook them, you get the pink color that you're used to seeing. And it's interesting because over the centuries and decades, lobsters used to be considered a poor man's food. It crawled on the bottom of the ocean and it was very plentiful. And now it's considered a delicacy. It depends where you are in the world. When we went over our food tour of the United States up in Maine, in the northeast section of the United States, lobsters are very plentiful in the Atlantic Ocean up there in Maine. And so you'll see lobsters on the menu all over Maine. Out in California and in other areas in the Midwest, it's a little harder to get lobsters. And so they're considered more of a delicacy, more expensive as well. So what you see here with the live lobster in the tank is that he's blue in color. And what you see right next to him, the lobster tail, is that once you boil the lobster or cook the lobster, he turns red, kind of a pinky salmon color. So that's when you know when they're ready. When I've cooked lobster, it takes very little time to cook it. The meat inside of the exoskeleton means that their bones are on the outside, and inside of their bones, it's all liquid until you cook it. And once you cook it, you get this very nice, white, fleshy meat that's very delicious. You can dunk it in some butter. In Pillar 3, when we get into cooking, we have a lot of fun cooking lobsters and different shellfish like shrimp. Right next to the lobster, you'll see scallops here. This is one of my very favorite seafood. These are also a little shellfish, and this it's like a little white medallion that comes out of the shellfish. You can cook it in lots of different ways. Again, we do a lot of fun cooking with shellfish in Pillar 3, but this is a picture of what scallops look like. Let's go right over to the next picture. And this is a picture of fried calamari. Now, this is squid. You can eat squid. One of the main ways that it's prepared is deep fried. So the squid will be prepared and then deep fried, and it's usually an appetizer at a restaurant, and you can try squid. Next time you're at a seafood restaurant, ask your parents to get you some fried calamari and you can try it. It's a little bit rubbery, a little bit different than what you would expect from fish or from other shellfish, but it's fun to eat. So check it out. Right over from that, we have full shrimp. These are full shrimp. They're cooked, so they've also turned that pinky, orangish red color. When they're in the ocean, they are a gray color mostly. But here's a full shrimp. You can see this shrimp has its legs on still, its head on still, its eyes are still on it, but it has been boiled and it has turned its pinky color, and that is indicative of shellfish when they're cooked, these kinds of shellfish. One really interesting thing that I learned in preparing for this lesson for you guys was that shrimp's hearts are in their head. So that's a little bit different than other animals that we've been studying. But yeah, shrimp's hearts are in their head. So let's go over from there. We have just a couple pieces here of tuna and salmon. The lighter colored fillet here in the middle, that's a salmon fillet. That's the typical color of salmon. And right behind that, you see a darker red fillet of fish, and that is tuna. Tuna is one of the most expensive types of fish in the world. One tuna fish can go for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars when it's caught and sold to a fish market. So, tuna is a really special fish that you'll find tuna a lot in your sushi. And that's why a lot of times some of your sushi can be quite expensive. Let's go right over from that. We've just got a typical fillet of fish here. This looks like a red snapper fillet. All different kinds of fish. In fact, there are 30,000 different types of fish worldwide, 30,000 different species of fish. So, really interesting. About 15% of the world's population relies on seafood as their main protein source. So, while we here in America we eat a lot of beef, most of the world, 15% of the world, relies on fish and seafood for their main protein source. So, let's keep that in mind when we're thinking worldwide, right? In the next lessons, we're going to be getting into a world tour, and we're going to go all around the world and we're going to see what our friends all over the world in different countries are eating for breakfast and lunch and dinner. And let's just keep in mind that 15% of the world's population eats fish and seafood as their main protein source. So we got to keep our oceans healthy and clean. In America, we eat about 1 billion pounds of shrimp per year. So, shrimp, like I said before, is one of the most popular seafood in America as well. And shrimp is the main one. Um, 50% of all the shrimp we eat comes from fish farms. So when we were going over where you get your food from lakes and streams and ponds and large industrial fishing operations, 50% of our fish comes from these fish farms, aquaculture, it's called, and they don't come from the wild. So that's just something to keep in mind. We went over before in our lessons what the pros and cons were of large fishing operations. Just like any other large operation for cattle or for chickens, fish have the same pros and cons generally that all the other protein sources have, and all the other plant staples really have as well, which is sometimes quality is sacrificed for quantity. So keep that in mind when you're buying your fish. If you really want wild caught fish, which I love wild caught fish more than farmed fish, then you want to look for that when you're in the grocery stores. So that's basically some examples here of fish. We had this slide in one of our other lessons. This shows you a few really nice pictures about what large scale fishing operations look like. And I want you to see that because it's not something we see every day. And the fish just shows up in the supermarket like the other pictures you see right above it. I actually took that picture myself at a Trader Joe's and to show you the difference between an Alaskan wild caught sockeye salmon and a fresh Atlantic salmon that's been farmed and the difference in color. And those are the other pictures here too. We show the difference between wild caught fish and farmed fish. But I really want you to see and keep the images in your mind of the aquaculture because 50% of our fish comes from these large scale aquaculture operations where the fish are farmed. And there's all different kinds. You can see here on the very end of the slide here, we have one that is created out of a natural body of water. And then on the other side, we have one that is in bins. And so you can imagine the fish that come from bins are going to probably be a little less healthy. There's more chance for disease. The water can be a little bit more dirty, and it takes a little bit more to clean that kind of thing. Oh, one thing I wanted to tell you about that I didn't mention: one oyster up here at the top. These are mussels and oysters. So the black shelled shellfish are called mussels. That's one type of shellfish. And right below that, the kind of white, bluish, gray shells, those are called oysters. Now, one oyster, just one, can filter 50 gallons of water per day. So, what that means is think about your gallon of milk in the refrigerator and how big that is. Now, take 50 of those, and one little tiny oyster can filter all that water. So, oysters keep our oceans clean. So we want to help all of these different ecosystems to thrive and be clean and safe and populate the way that they're supposed to. We don't want to overfish. Some of the downsides of the large fishing operations is sometimes they will fish so much to feed so many people that the supply of fish gets overfished. And we want to make sure not to do that because then our beautiful little oysters can't filter the water and the whole ecosystem of the ocean is affected by that. So, the way that nature is made and has been created and is set up is to work perfectly together. We go over that in section 2 of the course. And the way that nature has perfectly situated all of these different foods for you is perfectly done, is perfectly designed and perfectly orchestrated by God, by Mother Nature, by the universe, by all of it. And so I really want you to keep that in mind as well that nature is our best source of food and our best and cleanest source of getting all of the things that we need to live and thrive. And we really want to take care of it so that we have all of these beautiful things that were meant for us to thrive on. So keep all of these things in mind when you're in the grocery store, when you're deciding what to eat, when you're deciding what to cook. This is fish and seafood. So I will see you in the next lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about pork and the pork industry and where what kind of foods come from pork. We'll see you over there.